So you want to study in Canada without having to write your IELTS exam. And here are 6 ways you can do that. So I woke up with a lot of optimism today, and the first thing I did was open Instagram and slide right into DMs. And I said, speaking of comments, here is this week's featured comment. Damit, you really put in some effort in that grammar, and you earn my respect. Anyway, if you're new to this amazing channel, my name is Z, and I make videos for international students who are planning on coming to Canada. I share unique strategies in regards to how to stand out as an international student and create opportunities for yourself so you can become successful. So if you're not subscribed, subscribe. Now in this video, I will talk about the following. Number 1, 6 ways you can study in Canada without writing your IELTS exam. Number 2, what is Duolingo? Will there be visa issues if you don't write your IELTS exam? And lastly, is it really a good idea to avoid writing your IELTS exam? So 6 ways you can study in Canada without writing your IELTS. Now I know you all want to come to Canada, and you totally should. It's one of the best countries for immigrants right now. However, there are some things to consider when you're deciding on pursuing a degree in Canada. And one of them is language. As you may know already, there are certain places in Canada where majority of people speak French, and there are other places where majority of people speak English. Now, based on the location that you're going to and the institution you're trying to apply for, they will need a proof of language proficiency. And in the case of English, it's IELTS or TOEFL. And based on my intelligent presumptions, many of you are lazy and you don't want to write your IELTS exam. Well, guess what? Your wishes have come true. You can now study in Canada without writing your IELTS. But here's the catch though, it's only for the time being, which means it's temporary and applies for certain institutions. So how and where can you study in Canada without IELTS? You can do this strategically by choosing the institutions that actually do not consider IELTS as a mandatory criteria. I would suggest you research on Google as to which institutions offer that, but here are 6 ways you can study in Canada without writing your IELTS. And number 1, English proficiency letter. One of the best ways for international students to avoid writing the IELTS exam when applying for Canadian universities and colleges is to provide an English proficiency letter from the school you used to study in. Please note this only applies for students who went to English medium schools. The requirement is that you provide a letter from the school that mentions that you studied in that school for the last 4 years. You might be asked for supporting documents that prove that. That could be your transcripts, and you have to make sure they're certified and valid. Also, students who wrote their O-levels and A-levels exams don't need to write their IELTS. Number 2, show that your undergraduate education was in English. If you're heading to Canada for your graduate studies, you can show that your undergraduate courses were done in English, and that way you don't have to write your IELTS. This applies mostly for students who are actually international students currently in another country like USA, UK, or Australia, and now wants to come to Canada. The fact that you already got a degree by taking your studies fully in English shows that you're able to study in this language. In some universities, you can get enrolled by producing a letter of recommendation from your previous faculties regarding your English proficiency. Number 3, present scores from other English tests. In addition to the IELTS exam, many Canadian schools also accept other test results. That could be TOEFL or CAEL. They're considered proof that your knowledge of the language is more than sufficient for you to pursue your higher studies in Canada. So if you already took any of these tests like TOEFL or CAEL, then you can definitely study in Canada without writing your IELTS. But if you have not taken any of these tests, then this option might not be the best for you. Also, it's very important to know that what tests are accepted. For example, your academic IELTS is accepted, but the general IELTS score is not accepted. Number 5, take your studies in French if you can. One of the great things about Canada is that there are universities or colleges that teach their entire program in French. If you're fluent in the language or you're a native French person, let's say you're from France, then this might be the best option for you. Of course, you will still need to prove that you went to a French-speaking school in your home country. Number 6, this is the final one, take the English for Academic Purposes Pathway Program. Now, this is a route that most international students are inclined to take. Students who wish to study in Canada can first attend an English learning program to prepare themselves for the conditions of the main study program. And this is called a pathway program. In an English pathway program, a student may meet the language requirements of the main study program by completing a language course, rather than taking the IELTS exam. This program is an intensive, full-time academic program that will help you build on and improve your English skills. It usually goes on for about 3 semesters. This way you can enter Canada as an international student without having to write your IELTS exam. It also gives you that time to kind of get familiar with the country and the city you're going to be living in, which will kind of help you adapt by the time you start your main study program. Now, I want to add to this, should you really do this program? If you have a lot of money in the bank, do it. If you don't, then don't do it. Listen, the thing is, IELTS will cost you a fraction of the 3 semesters it's going to cost you for the EAP Pathway Program. It might cost you around $20,000 for the EAP program because it's almost 3 semesters, whereas the IELTS exam probably costs you somewhere from $200 to $300. So you can decide which one you should go for. You can resit for the IELTS exam a couple of times, and eventually that will not add up to more than what the EAP program is. So it's definitely a cheaper alternative. So just do the work, write the IELTS exam. If you're thinking of doing the EAP, only do it if you have a lot of money. So those are basically the 6 ways you can study in Canada without IELTS. But please keep in mind that all these exemptions vary by schools and institutions. So you need to check with the institution that you're applying for and see if they allow that. It's also kind of important now to understand why are Canadian institutions all of a sudden doing this. So Canada has over 600,000 international students, and it is a $22 billion industry for them. So with the current situation, it's not looking very good for them, as so many international students are confused that if they can't even come to Canada anymore, or they're just scared. Plus, all these test centers are closed, and especially with IELTS being such an important criteria, a lot of the universities and colleges are not being able to bridge in the international students anymore. So they had to come up with ways to compensate for that loss. Canadian institutions have realized that students who actually went to English medium schools or recognized educational institutions have a pretty good knowledge of English. So they felt that it makes sense to waive the IELTS requirement for international students, so it's easier for the students to apply for higher education in Canada. You can already see that it's a temporary solution to the current problem. It might be there in the future, it might not be there in the future, but at this moment, these are the 6 ways that's available to you. Now, about Duolingo. If you don't qualify for the 6 ways I just mentioned, you still have to write a test. So given the current situation with so many test centers being closed, Canadian institutions are temporarily accepting a test called the Duolingo test. The Duolingo test will allow students to actually get language certification online, and the minimum score that's required is 115. The test is actually accepted by over 140 Canadian institutions right now. It can be completed in just 1 hour, and you will get the results within 2 days. I will suggest that you do a little bit of research on that through Google so that you have a better understanding of what Duolingo test is all about. Meanwhile, you can also contact your institution. You can email the registrar's office and ask them, what can you do about the Duolingo English test, or is it even accepted? Lastly, will there be any visa issues if you don't write your IELTS exam? Unfortunately, the answer is yes. First off, you have to understand how the process of being an international student really works. So there are 2 parts to this. One where you have to get your admission, where you deal with the university or the college you're trying to apply for. And the other part is where you have to apply for your visa, where you have to deal with a visa officer, which is usually kind of more complicated. And getting an admission doesn't mean that you will definitely get your visa. So the institutions actually only look at your grades, your test results, and your school transcripts. And of course, they would love to get you admitted because that's how their business model works. But it's not a lot of money for the visa officer who determines if you can come to Canada or not. So they're definitely not going to go easy on you. They will make sure you're a proper applicant and that you have good intentions of coming to Canada. They'll check if you have enough money to support yourself when you're in Canada. Are you capable of speaking English properly? And what's your background? So kind of a complex evaluation process. And trust me, they will deny your visa application the moment they sniff something that there's something wrong with your application. So ultimately, you have to convince the visa officer that you're a great applicant and an amazing fit for Canada. So how does that tie to the English test? So picture this. The reason you're not writing the IELTS exam is because that you're scared that you'll fail the exam and not do great. And that's why you just want an easy way out. What do you think that tells the visa officer? That you're not good in English and you won't be able to communicate with Canadians. Congrats, your visa just got denied. The thing is, universities and colleges have adapted to the current situation by giving an update that they're willing to accept the Duolingo test, but the visa centers haven't announced anything like that. So it's kind of risky to get admitted to the university and college because they will accept your Duolingo test, but the visa officer might not. I will suggest that you just write your IELTS exam. Honestly, a good IELTS score increases your chances of getting visa and is honestly one of the most important components of your application process. Now, if you really want to come to Canada this year, just pick one of those 6 ways. If you're not in a rush, just wait. It honestly will be in your best interest. I want to end the video on this note. You will have significantly more chances of being successful in Canada if you're good in English. And that's because you're coming to a country where a majority of people speak English. It's common sense. And the work that you will put in to prepare for your IELTS exam will help with that. I see a lot of you guys commenting on my videos saying my English is great or how I have a native accent. And that's because I chose to put in the hard work to actually improve my English, but not take the shortcut and take the easier route. If you're trying to not write your IELTS exam, it just means you're willing to take a shortcut and not put in the work. And guess what? If you're trying to be successful in Canada, go ask anybody. They will tell you there are no shortcuts to success. You have to commit and put in your 100% and put in the hard work. Trust me, when you put in all that work and you become successful, then you're gonna look back at the efforts that you put in and you're gonna be super proud of yourself. That being said, hope you found the video helpful. You can let me know in the comments if you have any questions about how to improve your English. You can also send me messages anytime on Instagram. I respond to everybody. My next video will be on how to get permanent residency after 2 years of study in Canada. So make sure to subscribe so you'll get a notification when I upload that. Anyway, take care and have an awesome week. I'll see you when I see you. Ciao.